Okay, ladies and gents, boys and girls, what is going on? Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. Hope you are all doing well. Appreciate you all tuning in. I apologize for being late. The Gamecocks just picked up a huge commitment from 2024 four-star defensive back Kelvin Hunter as we went live. So I was just trying to catch up with that and get a tweet out there. So anyways, guys, it is a great day to have a day indeed. Let's see. Mike Williams, it looks like he's announcing also probably the next minute or so. It is expected he will pick South Carolina. A very, very big pickup, though, from Kelvin Hunter. That one's official. The welcome homes over the last 24 hours, right? Three of them. So there are two unknown right now for the last 24 hours. Big-time stuff. Let's see. I see in the comments, Hunter Kelly, Braddock, Will, C. Youngblood, John Edward, Travie, Xavier, Brennan M, Ethan, Colton, Luke RJ, GA, what's going on? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel. Be sure your questions are answered there. Braddock says, welcome home, Birch. My guy, is that you think that didn't just drop, did it? I think social media would be going nuts if it did. That being said, guys, let's go ahead and start this thing off in style. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
John Edward.
John Edward, what's up, man? How are you?
Dude, I'm doing great. We're rocking and rolling, aren't we?
We are, yeah. And Mike Williams just made it official. He did commit to South Carolina. So there you go. What's going on?
Good night. Yeah, nothing. That's good to hear. He's a receiver, you said?
No, Mike Williams is an offensive lineman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike Williams just seems like a skill position name. I don't know.
Well, there was the Clemson
good.
receiver, Mike Williams. That's probably who you're thinking of.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I think Mike Williams, it sounds like Mike Williams, no offense, it doesn't sound like an offensive lineman name. But anyway, that doesn't matter. I mean, you get two guys, and now there's, like I said, there's two more that are out there. Because I remember specifically Shane Beamer tweeted come off the practice field one day last week, and then there's, so there's one other, and then there's one other out there. So.
Yeah, there's one more out there. It's crazy, man. Yeah, it's great. The Great Wall of Carolina is being built. Mike Williams, 6'6", 325 is what he's listed on 24/7 Sports. Then you get Kelvin Hunter, the four-star safety. So, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And so these two guys are 2024?
Yes, they are 2024. Yeah.
Gotcha. I figured that because I picked up on the fact whenever Shane Beamer tweets, I picked up on one of his hashtags so you kind of get an idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. Beamer's rocking for sure. Beamer's rocking.
He's cooking. He's cooking. Now let's speak on the baseball last night. That wasn't the prettiest thing in the world last night, but I guess when all you guys keep getting hit, like what is with our guys keep getting hit? I have no idea. But you get the win last night against Charles Southern. The win is a win in the midweek. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good win. I mean, listen, the bottom line in the midweek is just to win. So I talked about it after the game last night. Talked about it at the game last night. The toughest thing is getting your team fired up the same way to play a Charleston Southern as you do a Vandy. I mean, that's the challenge all these coaches face.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, it's the challenge the coaches face. I thought you saw in the first couple innings probably some hangover from the weekend, but the bottom line is you got it right. And, Eli Jersenbeck didn't have his best stuff either. I mean, just bottom line. Charleston Southern made him pay for it. So, but again, the bottom line is you win. Winning in the midweek, it's really not about style, especially at this point in the season. You get the W, and you take some momentum into these next three games against Florida.
Yeah. So, would it be safe to get out of here? But you think it's safe to say Lee Corey's not playing this weekend?
We'll see. Kingston said he's day to day, but I would not. I would not bank on that he's playing. I don't know. It seems like day to day in this program means you're out for 3 months. So.
Yeah. So I mean, the good thing is you do have Braswell, who you can probably put over there.
Yeah. No, for sure. I would expect Braswell to be the hot corner, no doubt.
No, yeah, he'll get another opportunity. You probably so this probably means what? Braswell will play third this weekend, and whoever how long Lee Corey's out, and probably put Tippett at second until McGillis is back.
That's how I'd expect them to roll. So. Yeah.
All right, dude. Thanks for taking the call, and like I said, Shane's Beamer's rocking.
Yeah, man. John Edward, I appreciate it. Yeah, see you tomorrow night, man. Appreciate you. Great stuff from John Edward to start the show off. And I feel like the SpongeBob meme where like both eyes are going different directions with all the craziness going on with baseball, recruiting. In case you missed it, guys, 2 commitments roll in. These were expected, but 2 of the welcome homes are now known as the Gamecocks pick up commitments from 2024 3-star offensive lineman Mike Williams and 4-star defensive back Kelvin Hunter. I think specifically he's listed as a safety, but DB Kelvin Hunter from Florence also picking the Gamecocks as well. Mike Williams, guys, a 6'6", 325-pound offensive lineman coming out of Baltimore, Maryland. I mean, guys, I mentioned this. The podcast for tomorrow, believe it or not, it's already been recorded. I mentioned this, though, on the pod because, we knew Williams and Hunter were going to be 2 of the commitments, 2 of the welcome homes. Like, you could have given me a million guesses like 5 years ago to what recruiting territory the Gamecocks would just own. I don't know. I would have never expected the DMV to be like this gold mine for talent. But here we are. Again, 6'6", 325. He's a .8450 on the 24/7 Sports Composite. He chooses the Gamecocks over Michigan State and Maryland. So to take one from their backyard, from Baltimore, Maryland, Charles Herbert Flowers High School. I mean, it's extra sweet, right? When you beat out Maryland, because we don't like Maryland here. And then of course Kelvin Hunter coming from Florence, South Carolina, West Florence High School, 5'11", 181. He's a .9235 on the 24/7 Sports Composite, the 3rd ranked player in the state of South Carolina on the composite. And he chooses the Gamecocks over schools like Auburn, Coastal, Kentucky, Michigan. So another big get for Torian Gray. And, the Gamecocks, man, just continue the torrid pace on the recruiting trail. I see a lot of comments, by the way, about Jordan Birch and his status. Is he coming back to South Carolina? Guys, I'll just say this. I won't spend a lot, and I mentioned on the podcast tomorrow, but I won't mention a lot. I won't speculate a lot on the Jordan Birch thing. Again, there is interest. He wants to come back. From what we've heard, he would, quote-unquote, like to come back. Will it happen? We'll wait and see. We shall see what happens. I think he would have to get a waiver to even be eligible to play because you only get 1 free transfer. So I'm not exactly sure what that would look like, and the debate can rage on. You can debate in the comments in regards to should he be welcomed back? Will Gamecock Nation welcome him back? Whatever. But apparently there is smoke there, and where there's smoke, there's generally fire, that Jordan Birch would like to come back and play for South Carolina. Apparently things are not going as well in Eugene, Oregon that maybe he thought they would. Anyways, guys, 2 big pickups for the Gamecocks this morning, or just now as we started the show. 2024 4-star defensive back Kelvin Hunter and 3-star offensive lineman Mike Williams. Big-time pickups, guys. Of course, we're taking your questions, comments, calls all day long. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. So Chase Youngblood says today's commitment should bring the class to number 7 on 24/7. What is up, Slapdicks? What's going on, Brendan? GA, I see y'all commenting in the Big Cock Club Discord. And to the comment, to the point again, we got Mark Ryan, guys, by the way, upcoming at 12:15. By the way, please don't throw tomatoes. No, I'm kidding. We got Mark Ryan coming up at 12:15. Colton, there is no Beamer press conference. No, that's done after the spring game. No. So the next time that you hear or see Beamer in a presser, it will probably not be literally until like August. Like, we're truly now, Colton, into the offseason, the quote-unquote offseason, if you will. But I'll just say this, man, before we get Mark Ryan on. I don't want to overreact or over-exaggerate anything, and I'm not saying this to appease to the masses but like when you look at what South Carolina is doing on the recruiting trail, when you look at what Shane Beamer's doing, right? I told you guys when Beamer was hired, I really didn't have any concerns that he would recruit well here. I didn't, because the Gamecocks, we've always been able to recruit pretty well, right? Like, the recruiting's always been, it felt like, at a top 25 clip. And if you're at a top 25 clip, you're giving yourself a great opportunity, I think, to win 7, 8, 9 games, to maybe swing upward, develop some guys, and be competitive, and maybe every now and then challenge the elites. We have never seen what Shane Beamer's doing right now in recruiting. Never. Not during the Spurrier era, not during any era. Like what they're doing in recruiting right now and how quickly it's happening. Like I thought this was a possibility for sure, but how quickly it's happening that they're landing these guys, all of these top prospects. It's crazy. And if you're a fan of an SEC team, if you're a fan of Clem Sucks, you have to look and be terrified of what's happening in Columbia. And I'm really not trying to be this rah-rah, like hot take dude, but we said, so many people ask, is Shane Beamer going to win an SEC championship? Is he going to win a national championship? And we've all said before, this is kind of a no-dust statement, but if 3, 4, 5 years from now the Gamecocks are in Atlanta, it'll be because recruiting changed. We've mentioned that before. It will be because recruiting changed. There are other pieces you need. There are other variables you have to have. But if you don't have the recruiting piece, if you don't have the Jimmys and Joes guys, I don't give a damn how much want to or culture you have. You ain't going to beat Georgia. You ain't going to beat Alabama. You ain't going to beat LSU. You're just not going to beat them without the Jimmys and Joes, right? So it had to start. It has to start in recruiting. It has to start in recruiting. And when you look at what they're doing right now, they're not just recruiting at a solid clip. Like, they're pulling in the best of the best right now. We have never seen this type of success in recruiting at South Carolina. And so these could be the classes. This could be the foundation of getting back to winning 10, maybe 11 games. I'm not saying it's a guarantee because you got to develop. There's other things that have to happen. You got to get the right quarterback. Like, there's other pieces to this thing, but the success they're having this early on in the recruiting trail, again, you're a fan of an SEC team, SEC East, what have you. Clem Sucks. You got to be just terrified of what's going on right now, because I don't think anybody saw this coming. You can get your shots in at Beamer and Carolina football and the history. Get your shots in now. Get them in. Get them in while you can, because 2-3 years from now, when this roster's just loaded up with these dudes and you've really got the real depth they're trying to build right now, when you've got that roster put together, you're not going to be able to get your shots in on the field. You're just not. Not with the guys they're bringing in. As long as everything else follows suit. And, hey, that's an if. It's not a guarantee, but if it does, look out, man, because Carolina's bringing the Jimmys and Joes in. You got to have them, and they're getting them. Bottom line, man. Again, I'm not trying to overreact. I'm really not just like, I didn't wake up this morning saying, let me pump some sunshine for the Gamecocks, but it's just recognizing what's going down. I mean, truly. I mean, if they don't win over the next couple of years, if Gamecocks football don't win over the next couple of years, it ain't because they didn't bring in talent or they didn't bring in players. And I mean, if the players don't pan out, my God, just disband 24/7 and Rivals and On 3, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about, because you're bringing in dude after dude after dude after dude. You know what I'm saying? So recruiting's changing, man. That's the bottom line. Recruiting is changing. The recruiting is changing. I don't give a damn what you want to say. The recruiting's changing. That's flat out. We've never seen this. We've never seen this. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close up the phone lines. We got Mark Ryan jumping in the next minute or two. I'm sure he'll have comments on God knows what. I'm kidding. On everything. What I will not ask him about is spring game attendance. I can tell you that for sure, because I have no interest at all in talking about it. So I know he's going to have very strong thoughts on the Jordan Burch thing. Very strong thoughts. And my guy Chase Youngblood comments in the Big Cock Club Discord, stars matter. And I want to echo that because, guys, guess what? They do. The stars matter. I know that so many people – see, what's funny, the stars only matter to teams who don't recruit. The stars only don't matter to teams who don't recruit well. If you're recruiting well, you're never going to hear an Alabama or a Georgia fan say that stars don't matter. But it's a team that's like ranked 23rd, 24th, 25th in recruiting, ranked 30th. Oh, well, the stars don't matter. They're overrated. Yes, they do. The stars matter, guys. It's not a foolproof system, right? Not every 5-star plays in the NFL. Not every 4-star is all conference, right? Not every 3-star is as lowly as they may project, right? Some guys play above their grade or below it, but stars matter. The teams that are getting the best players year in, year out in recruiting, those are the teams that are winning games. They flat out are, Those are the teams going to the college football playoff. Blue chip ratio, we've mentioned before, it matters. The stars matter. And Beamer knows it. They matter. The teams that get the most 5 stars, they're in a better position to win than the teams who stock up on 3 stars. It's just facts. It's facts, guys. Imagine playing a pickup basketball game or a pickup football game, right? And you rate your who's available based off stars. If they got more 5 stars than you got, they're probably going to win. I'm not saying it's foolproof. It's every time, right? Just because they have more 5 stars, they beat you. But over the course of, let's say, a decade, that matters. Like, recruiting matters. The stars matter. And they only matter to people who aren't good in recruiting. That's flat out it. They only matter to people who aren't good in recruiting. So, and I understand the recruiting services, they're never going to spin it as, wow, this class sucks because it's a bunch of 3 stars. Like, that would be a bad business model for them, because guess what they do? They drive away Gamecock fans who are literally going to 24/7 on 3 rivals. Recruiting is hope, and they're looking for hope. So they don't want to hear, well, this class sucked. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Even Vanderbilt, who's recruiting like the 50th class, they're not going to say their class sucked. We think it sucks, but, recruiting is selling hope, man. Recruiting is selling hope, and you can't sell it if you're talking about how shitty the class is. So, guys, we're waiting on Mark Ryan right now. We're waiting on Mark Ryan. Let's see. 2 big-time commits, though, coming in. 4-star defensive back Kelvin Hunter, 3-star offensive lineman Mike Williams. 2 big-time pickups, and I will get those posts out on Instagram shortly once we go into our first break. I don't know where Mark is. We are awaiting his arrival. Colton says, stars matter. A top-rated vehicle drives differently than others, and it will last and perform great if you know how to take care of it and utilize it correctly. Similar concept. Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. Let's see. Lynn Turner. Oh, talking about Marshawn Lloyd. Nah, Marshawn Lloyd ain't coming back, man. That's no. I don't think there's any interest there. Lynn Turner says, I think just the rumor that Birch wants to come back is good for us. Again, guys, I will say people have asked me, would you take him back? It all depends on the nature of the exit. I think you need to have a team vote. I think you shouldn't do anything that goes against the culture you're building and what matters in your building. If the 2 sides are, if it depends on the nature of the exit. So we can't really speak well to it because we weren't there. We don't know. And I know Mark Ryan has a very firm stance on this, right? It's one of those things where I'm not going to be upset if they don't want him back. I'm not. It's a deal of stand on business, right? It really is. I talked about this. One of my favorite rants I've ever gone on this show was the stand on business rant. When Jaheim Bell, and we were talking about, would you take him back? And I said, why don't you just stand on business? If it was bad enough where you wanted to up and leave, then stand on business. Stand on business. That's it. So, but would I take Jordan Birch back? As long as, again, I'd leave it to a team vote. And if the nature of the exit wasn't something where I felt like bringing him back would go against the culture that I'm building, then I'd bring him back because he's a good football player. He's a solid football player, and we need help at the edge. Just call it for what it is. We need help at the edge. So, I would be open to his return. And if Beamer deems that him coming back is going to be a positive for the football team, then I guess you got to roll what Beamer says. You have to, right? You have to roll what Beamer says. You trust in Beamer. But it's going to be interesting. Maybe it's just smoke and nothing will come of it. And I think there's a lot that probably goes into it in regards to would he be eligible? Can he play? But we talked about it before, man. We talked about it before that the transfer portal, some guys are going to learn some hard lessons. They are. Some guys are going to learn some hard lessons in the portal, and maybe it's not what you thought it was going to be, and what have you. So let's see. We're still awaiting Mark Ryan here on the airwaves. Not exactly sure what Mark Ryan's doing. GA. Love it. Brewer Nation says, I'd let the team vote on it. It had to be 80% yes. Yeah, I'd say it had to be unanimous. I think because all it takes is one, Brewer Nation. If one guy in that locker room ain't bought in, if one guy in that locker room feels like it's a cancer, I wouldn't allow it. I'd say, you know what? All we got's all we need. And, that's unfortunate you're not happy with the decision you made, but you made the decision. You made the decision. And, I think you need to see it out. You need to, deal with the consequences. I don't know. I mean, it's all up on Beamer. I mean, how the nature of the exit happened. Maybe it's just smoke. It's just smoke right now. So that's why I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about it, because I hate to just dwell on speculation, but it definitely sounds like there's some validity to this. So there's some validity to this. Yeah, Will. Lloyd did not attempt a rush in Southern Cal spring game. So, anyways, guys, we still await the arrival of Mark Ryan. Not exactly sure where Mark is right now. Yeah, I don't know. There he is. Okay. All right. We got Mark on, guys. Again, really excited to chat with Mark Ryan. Again, appreciate you all tuning in. Tons to get into. And you can check out his show, which I do quite often, every single day, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7, Offsides with Mark Ryan, with he and Diesel. They do a great job talking everything. Gamecocks, Clem sucks, college football, sports in general, and national sports, if you will. And it looks like, let's see if we got Mark Ryan here. Not exactly sure. Looks like we might have lost his camera. Mark, are you there, my friend? What's going on? I see you now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's good, brother? How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. I appreciate you asking. I see you got the rocking the Panthers today, which is ironic.
Hey, man, we're getting ready for the draft, brother.
Yeah, what, next week, right?
It sounds like they're going to go Bryce Young. Now, it didn't start out that way, Chris, at all. The intelligence I was getting, the intelligence that many were getting, was that C.J. Stroud was really in the lead early on in the process, almost to the point where you wondered if Bryce Young was being considered. But, this is not a franchise that has done a lot of smart things in its history. It's never had back-to-back winning seasons. If they go Bryce Young, Chris, I think that is a smart decision. I'm not going to say that he is a Joe Burrow, Josh Allen level prospect. But if you're going to make the move that they did and push all the chips into the center of the table, you damn sure better make sure you get the best QB in this draft, and he's the best QB in this draft.
For sure. Mark, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. It's always a pleasure to chat
By the way,
with you.
I apologize, man. Apologize for being a few minutes late, man.
You're good. Dude, you're good.
I got stuck on a call. Sometimes, man, you get stuck on calls, and it's like, how do I just kind of do this?
Look at it's a hair past a freckle. Got to run.
Yeah, that's
no,
right.
I hear you. Yeah. No, it's all good, Mark. It's all good. I appreciate you. And again, I'm excited to not talk about spring game attendance with you. I've just been looking forward to that all week. No, I'm kidding.
By the way, I lost 20 Gamecock followers for just running what I thought was good-natured smack about attendance. We challenged South Carolina fans. We said, look at the crowd here at the Clemson spring game. Look at the crowd. Challenge issued. Then I thought it was playful. Chris. Hey, wait a minute. Look at Clemson's dedication. Where's yours? You posted a picture, Chris, right before kickoff. You said there's nobody there. You know what I'm saying? The crowd filed in at the end of the first quarter. And, I don't know, man. We've talked about this off the air, Chris. To me, there's no difference between an off-air conversation and an on-air conversation. Some folks take things way too damn seriously. And the whole spring attendance thing is fun. It's a fun conversation for you, for me. There's a little smack involved. It's a good time. But all told, who the hell knows what the real attendance numbers were? I mean, that was 100% a troll job from South Carolina. And it was a hilarious troll job. Kudos to them for that. Here's the reality. Clemson and South Carolina are in the top 5%, top 1% in terms of spring game energy and excitement and passion. They both were outstanding. Okay? So you say tomato, I say tomato. I say they both did great, Chris.
The beauty's in the banter, Mark, as we always say. And with that being said, Mark, I'm really going to open up the floodgates here, because The rumors started, and you know where I'm going with this already. The rumors started to circulate yesterday that apparently former Gamecocks edge Jordan Birch is not all that happy in Eugene, Oregon. Shocker. Who could have seen this coming? But apparently he's not all that happy, and he would, quote unquote, like to come back to South Carolina. Now, if this happens, we have no idea. But that is the rumor, Mark. And I've run a poll on Twitter, and I've got it pulled up, and I asked the question, would Gamecock Nation welcome his return? Mark, there are 6,773 votes. This hit the target audience. 69.4% have said yes. 30.6% have said no. I know where you stand on this. I'm gonna just give you the floor, man, and let you go off.
Okay.
What say you about the Jordan Birch?
So I need to veer off here a little bit to the left, Chris. And again, you just heard me say, Chris, that there's no difference between an off-air conversation and an on-air conversation with me. Diesel's learned this the hard way. He can tell it. He's like, dude, I shared that with you off the air. Dude, like, we are on our show, we let everybody behind the curtain. There is no curtain here. So I'm going to tell you, Chris, something right now, and we'll get to that, but I'm going to tell you something right now that I would tell you off the air as well. Chris, a couple of the greatest blessings in my career, right, is that I developed relationships with the executive producer of The Herd with Colin Cowherd and the executive producer of the Dan Patrick Show. And those guys were my mentors 10 years ago. They're now the former executive producers of those shows. They've moved on both to even bigger and better things. And they coach me and they critique me, and I still send them my stuff. Chris, my advice to you, okay? This morning I saw a couple things. Brad Crawford's article. You said thoughts. Chris, you've already said your record is 9-3. You don't have to be a mean to Brad Crawford, but Brad, you're wrong, and here's why. A, B, and C. That's what your audience wants from you. Your audience doesn't want thoughts, question mark. Your audience wants, you said 9-3, Chris. He says 7-5. He is disrespecting your favorite team and his favorite team. You don't have to be mean about it, but Brad, you're wrong, X, Y, and Z, right? The Jordan Birch thing. My mentors would say to me, Chris, don't post a poll. What is your take? You know, like, you can post a poll after your take, but Chris, I scrolled through your timeline. I didn't see your take anywhere. You know, it was just like, thoughts. Chris, your brand, brother, your brand is like having bold takes, big takes. Don't pass it to your audience. Give your take, brother. And that, like, I say this because I love you and I freaking care about you. And like, I share that with you because those two guys, if I sent them my material and I was doing that, that's the first thing they'd say to me. They'd say, Mark, what is your take? Like, don't say thoughts, question mark. The audience is coming to you for your thoughts, right? For your thoughts. So, Chris, I invite you to challenge Brad Crawford on his article. And I invite you to give a strong opinion on Jordan Birch, because I'm going to give you a strong opinion on Jordan Birch. Get the F out of here. All right? Get the F out of here. You left that team. You left that team for money. You left that team for a bag of cash. The best programs in college football, Chris, don't do that crap. And so I really and sincerely hope that South Carolina does not bring him back, because it would be akin to your best friend gets left by a girl, leaves him for another guy, and like a little bee, he accepts her calling back. And by the way, I'm saying the guy is the bee there, not the girl, right? You would respect a friend less if he did that. The same holds true here, Chris. South Carolina wasn't good enough for him. He didn't perform well at South Carolina. And Chris, honestly, if we're looking at what's best for Jordan Birch, what's best for him is to learn the lesson that you don't always get to do what you want. To learn the lesson that, brother, the grass isn't always greener, right? To learn the lesson that money doesn't always buy happiness. So I sincerely hope and pray that Shane Beamer has some standards for the program that he wants. You know, Chris, he is the guy who said, I'm tired of everyone around here waiting for something bad to happen. Remember when he had that quote? I'm like,
doom and gloom. Doom and gloom.
It's a loser's mentality. Now, Mark, are you calling all Gamecock fans losers? No, I'm not. But I am saying, Chris, that there is an inferiority complex there. That, oh my God, we can't fire Will Muschamp. He's got a better record through 3 years than anyone ever has. Well, he won 23 games. That sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you set your own standard. Nobody sets your standard, okay? And the transfer portal should be amended so where if you leave an institution, that door is not reopened, okay? Not to Hunter Johnson, not to Austin Stogner, not to anybody. You left. You chose to leave. We gave you a scholarship. We got walk-ons that are busting their ass every single day for something that you took for granted. Sometimes in life, Chris, the principle matters. And I was saddened, Chris, to see the results of your poll because it shows me a little bit the inferiority complex is still there. And that's my take. Is that strong? Is that a strong enough take?
That is. And I'll say this first things first, Mark. I do appreciate your feedback and I value it. I am someone that, I mean, you know that I give bold takes all the time. I could probably do this less in regards to I don't know. I do like to take a temperature gauge of the fan base because I'm always just kind of curious where the fan base is at. But I do understand what you're saying that people tune in for my takes and
by the way,
opinions.
Chris, by the way, I say that to you because I admire you. I love what you've built. You are successful. If you didn't listen to that advice, could you still be successful? Yes. Right. But I want you to know what the very top guys in our industry would tell me, right, because they have told me. They're like, man, when something that happens, you know, Brad Crawford has an article of the wins and loss records. Chris, I saw your record is 9-3. I was like, come on, Chris, your record's 9-3. His is 7-5. Don't give us thoughts, question mark. Give us your thoughts. Brad, here's why you're wrong, A, B, and C. I love you, Brad. You're my friend, but here's why you're wrong, right? And then Jordan Birch, I want your take. Chris, here we are 18 hours later. I still don't know what your take is on Jordan Birch. I come to the Spurs Up Show feed to get your take, brother. I want your take. I gave you a strong-ass opinion. Give me your strong-ass opinion.
You know, I one of my favorite rants, Mark, just selfishly that I've ever gone on was when the Jaheim Bell situation took place. And we kind of had this same conversation. And this wasn't even he had gone to a new school yet, but the question was posed, would you take back Jaheim Bell? And I mean, sort of to echo your point. Now, listen, every situation is different. Like I look at an Austin Stogner, your head coach gets fired, you want to leave, whatever. Every situation is different. I'll say this, though. Just like I said about Jaheim Bell, stand on business. I think it just always makes sense to stand on business. So to your point, if the situation, no matter what the bag is, because I can tell you that Jordan Birch got offered to stay as well. If the situation's poor enough to where you want to up and leave and literally go across the country, I mean, I wouldn't take him back either. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't. I think it's too much of a conflict of interest with the culture that Beamer's built. I mean, it's going to be on Shane Beamer at the end of the day. And so depending on the nature of the exit, I mean, it would help to have some context what that was like. But to your point, and to the point of all Gamecock fans, it's something we talked about, the culture that Beamer's built inside of the program, I just can't help but feel like it would go against what he's built. And 100%. So with that being said, I don't think he would take him back. And I personally, like, do we need edge help? For sure. I don't think we're that desperate. Like, nobody likes somebody who's desperate. I don't think we're that desperate. So no, I don't think he'll be taken back. I would not take him back. And I don't think Shane Beamer will take him back.
Chris, I want to get to some of the comments here that are coming in. Will Korb says, Chris, do you? That's what got you this far, my dude. Will Korb, I mean, that's a good point in theory, right? Do you, right? Like, all you can be is yourself in life because everyone else is taken, right? But at the same time, for all of us, when we cease getting better, we cease being good. And so when somebody tells me, Mark, I love your show. Great show, man. I love your show. Listen every day. Do I appreciate that? Yeah. You know what I appreciate more than that, Chris? When the program director of CBS Sports Radio nationally calls me and says, I got a couple pointers for you. See what I'm saying? Because that's how we get better. That's how we get better. We should always be striving to get better. And so, Chris, I want you to know, man, that when I give you my thoughts, which again, there's no difference between an on-air conversation and an off-air conversation. It's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of like, I do not want the harsh nature of social media to change the brash nature of you and how you got started, And I don't want to have to wait 18 hours for Chris Phillips's take on Jordan Birch. You know how you felt about this yesterday, right? Like I want to know how you feel, because you're 100% right. That goes against the culture. What message does that send the other guys in the locker room? Cool, man. I can cheat on Shane Beamer. He'll take me back, right? I can cheat on the other guys in this locker room. They'll take me back. The heck with all these guys. I'm going to play the field. It's just really not a good not a good message. Braddock 843 says Reverend Mark in the house preaching the truth. Let's see here. Edwin Casarsis, outside of quarterbacks, most portal guys are never going to make it long in the league. Just saying. Ranger Ryan, kudos to both of you. Mark, enjoyed your bit last Saturday on CBS Sports Radio. Thank you, Ranger Ryan. Chris, congrats on the segment on WFNZ. I love those guys on WFNZ. Chris, that is a great show. Mac and Bone, that is a fantastic show. Congrats for being on. Hope it leads to many more things in the future. Let's see here. Bruin says, I agree 100% with you, Mark. Colton Carroll says, I feel Beamer standing on business and showing no matter how much he could help out. If you leave, then you're gone. It would probably help with retention of the roster during the transfer periods. 100%, Colton. 100%. Conflict of interest, Madison Duncan says. Hey to you, Madison, as well. What's Mark's stance on the QB situation? Chris, what QB situation are we talking about here?
I think probably the Luke Doty thing. I would imagine it has to be because obviously Spencer Rattler's QB1. So I think the dynamic of the depth chart, Luke Doty, Lenore Sellers. But you and I have already had this conversation. I'd be, and my speaking of bold takes again, my spring game overreaction that I'm not even sure is an overreaction at this point is that I'd just be shocked if Luke Doty's QB2 going in the fall. But that's probably what they're referring to. I would imagine.
Oh, Chris, we took a lot of heat for that question we asked you. Do you know that?
I saw the tweet. I saw it. Yeah, but it's got about like 45,000 impressions right now, which again is what you want, though. I think some people. I mean, obviously they see your name, they see the fan upstate, they see my name, and they react to the extreme. That question was fair. That question was more than fair. You know what I mean?
Right. So the question was, let's bring you guys into this. With all of the hype around Sellers and the job that he did in the spring game and the hype and the hoopla around what people are hearing about him, is it fair to ask, would Luke Doty enter the transfer portal? And we asked Chris what he would do. And Chris says, I would answer the transfer portal because I don't think my future is at South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Do we value, Chris, those guys who are our Gamecock lifers and want to be a Gamecocks forever and it means something to them? Hell yeah, we do. But Luke Doty has been one of those guys. He's been the good soldier. And if he gets passed up again, this was going to be his year to start. Then Rattler comes back. Now you're telling me he's going from second on the depth chart to third. Is that the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of his Gamecock loyalty? Does he say, I wanted to be a Gamecock and it breaks my heart, but it's just not going to work out here? Yeah. Chris, when I was hosting Afternoon Drive in Tampa, and Booger McFarland was my co-host, and we were number one, I saw in my head that we were going to be one of the most market-dominant shows in the country for the next 20 years, Booger and I, right? Mm-hmm. And then we got caught in a corporate merger. Our station was traded to another company, and that company said, we're not going to continue sports in Tampa Bay. And Booger and I both lost our jobs. It took me 9 years in the career to get to that point. It was heartbreaking. I'm sure on some level it's heartbreaking what's happening to Luke Doty right now, right? Because he wanted this to work, but it just doesn't seem like it's in the cards. So it's not poor sports. It's not a low blow to ask what he would do, right? I think he's talking with his family right now about what he would do. And anyway, apologies, Chris.
No, you're good.
When I'm on with you, man, it feels more like we are co-hosts as opposed to like, interview guest, question answer. And I like that. I like when we have you on that it's more like that as well, because I think, co-hosting style is more interesting to the audience than question answer, right? But I have really commandeered this. I'll step back now.
No, you're good. No, you're good. And I will say too that we talked about that on these airwaves after your show about what I would do. And again, I don't think it's a hot take at all, but it all comes down to his experience and decision. And I mean, I think that you speak on this, Mark. You'll hear the phrase clubhouse guys in baseball. There are certain guys, like especially in the minors, they're great organizational guys. They're probably never going to play in the big leagues, but they're just great for your organization, the foundation, and they get along great with everybody. And so I think for Shane Beamer's program and probably a lot of other programs, they're just culture guys. They're culture builder guys. The culture, they're great for the program. Are they ever going to make a real impact? Not necessarily. So like you mentioned, is a guy like Luke Doty going to be celebrated? Absolutely. And he should, as long as he's okay with not playing. I mean, it's cool, but he'll be celebrated, but he's just never really going to play. So if he's okay with that, then that's all that really matters. But yeah, so you asked me what I would do. I mean, I want to play, bottom line. On the note of the spring game, Mark, let's get into that. Your just overall thoughts. I know you had some really strong opinions early in the week that South Carolina, you don't see them being held under 30 in any game this season. So obviously you felt pretty good about what you saw from the offense. Just overall takeaways from the spring game. Slight over-exaggeration?
It was a slight misquote by Diesel.
Okay.
So the way the show works, guys, is I say the content, right, on the air. It always amazes me when people think that I am making the posts, Chris, as though there were 4 of me that can also host and then post the content and grab the content and cut the content at the same time. Our show is 3 to 7 p.m. So Diesel, I'm not mad at Diesel for this, but he's like, Mark doesn't think Carolina is going to be held below 30. If you listen to the audio, which I hope all you guys do, as opposed to just always reading the headline, please click the audio. I said, I think it's going to be hard for somebody to hold them under 30. Chris, last year, South Carolina scored over 30 points in 8 out of 12 games. All right. Could I see a situation where they score 30 in 10 out of 11, 10 or 11 out of 12 this year? You bet your butt I can. You bet your butt. But how about ESPN's Football Power Index saying South Carolina is the second worst team in the SEC this year? It like Beamer accomplished nothing in his first 2 years here, because that's where South Carolina was when he took over. Chris, let me say this for everybody to hear as a Florida graduate. South Carolina is better than Florida this year. South Carolina is going to finish with a better record than Florida this year. The fact that ESPN's FPI has Florida 18th and South Carolina 42nd, that is totally backwards, man. That is totally backwards. But, it just continues the bleep the world mentality that has worked so well for Shane Beamer and this team. We haven't earned your respect yet. Okay. Wait till you see what we got in store for you this year.
Yeah, it's crazy. The FPI, we talked about that yesterday. They give the Gamecocks just a 48% chance to make a bowl game, Mark. I mean,
5 and 7.
That to me is what really stood out. Is that's laughable. It's laughable to say the least. But again, back to Mark, just overall, I know we don't have any, we don't overreact to spring games, but was there anything specifically from South on a spring game besides the attendance that jumped out to you at all? I mean, play of Spencer Rattler, Trey Knox obviously turned heads. I think a couple guys on defense flashed, obviously. But I mean, just if you had one spring game overreaction or just hot take, if you will, is there anything that you came away with?
Chris, I was kind of really impressed with how Rattler looks in that offense already. And I think one of the most unfair things we do in media and as fans is judging guys when they haven't had a chance to learn the offense. I was on the field at the Clemson spring game. All right. You might be aware of a controversy that followed me there. But the quarterback play under a new offense and a new OC was shaky at best. Okay. Christopher Vizina was throwing interceptions all over the field. Cade Klubnik didn't make the critical mistake, and that's why his side won the game. But he wasn't sharp, Chris. He didn't know where to go with the football a lot of the time. And so I think what you're seeing is that Spencer Rattler is becoming a guy that is ready for the NFL because he's handling multiple things. He's processing multiple things. He is looking like a guy that can lead an offense that scores 30 points a game just about every game.
Mark, I had this take earlier, speaking of hot takes or bold takes, if you will. South Carolina picks up 2 more commitments today. 3-star offensive lineman Mike Williams out of Baltimore, Maryland, 6'6", 325. Again, both these commitments coming at noon, so right before you jumped on. So Mike Williams, the first. 4-star DB Kelvin Hunter out of Florence, South Carolina, the other, 5'11", 181, a .9235 on the composite. The third-ranked player in the state of South Carolina for the 2024 class. Mark, I'll just say this, and I know you guys have been very complimentary of Shane Beamer on the recruiting trail, and you've talked to multiple people in the business, if you will. My take is this, Mark. I really believe, and I'm not trying to wave the rah-rah flag or be Garnet Glasses optimistic, but really, truly, like when you look at what Beamer and company continue to do in recruiting, I saw something, the On3 rankings. I think the Gamecocks right now are 5th. South Carolina has never recruited like this, like not even under Steve Spurrier throughout their entire history. They never recruited like this. If you are a fan of an SEC team, especially in the East, if you're a fan of Clem Sucks, you got to be terrified of what Beamer's doing. Like, because I feel like South Carolina's always recruited at a respectable level. Don't get me wrong. They've always been top 25. But the way they're recruiting now, it's truly, in my opinion, unlike anything we've ever seen. Your overall thoughts on the continued recruiting successes that they're having, because 2024 shapes up to be, Mark, it's not an over-exaggeration, literally the best class in school history.
Chris, for the first time in school history, they hit the blue chip ratio last year. Mm-hmm. School history. You can go back and look at Spurrier's classes, Muschamp's classes. Spurrier's classes and Muschamp's classes were similar, okay? Right now, through 2 years, Beamer and Muschamp had the same record at South Carolina. Beamer has to be 8-5 or better to have a better record than Muschamp after 3 years. Recruiting-wise, the recruiting numbers, Chris, have been similar until now. No one hit the blue chip ratio. Beamer was at exactly 50%. That means blue chip ratio, 50% of your recruits are 4 or 5-star players or more, right? This year, what is he, 6 out of 8 or something this year in terms of blue chip ratio? And this is something, Chris, that Dabo's not going to admit to you. But I think Dabo looked at the dearth of talent, the lack of talent in South Carolina, and said, I can't win at the biggest level here. I've got to recruit regionally, and then I've got to recruit nationally. Truth be told, Beamer is recruiting regionally, and I think if he keeps it going, it could get to the place where he can recruit nationally as well. You see the Beamer fence, right? He's got the fence around Washington, D.C., Virginia, North Carolina. He's not secret, Georgia, Florida. He's not secretive about where he wants to dominate. But the fact that he's doing that, the fact that he's become the it coach in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and the fact that now a state that was used to usually produces 3 or 4-star guys a year. Our state, South Carolina, Chris, this state usually produces 3 or 4 4-star guys a year. Now 6 4-star guys a year. It seems to me like a very smart play by Beamer that he prioritized South Carolina first when he got here. And frankly, it seems like an underplay by Dabo to overlook it, because now Dabo's playing catch up in the state. Beamer's going to get 5 of the top 7 players in the state. And when the state is suddenly producing more 4-star talent, that's another win for Beamer. That's another win for the Gamecocks. And now Clemson is taking losses off the field as well.
And just to echo your point, Mark, 7 of the 9 commitments right now in the 2024 cycle, 4-star or better. So the blue chip ratio is in a really, really good place right now. Mark Ryan, offsides of Mark Ryan of the Fan Upstate. Last thing, Mark, before I get you off here, a big baseball weekend upcoming. Your Gators are coming to town, my man. Going to be a good one. The 3rd-ranked Florida Gators. Your overall thoughts? I mean, again, this has been an incredible season. Going to be a great series, obviously 3 versus 6. The big storyline, or one of the big ones, Brandon Neely, the Gators closer, is out for this weekend. Got a 4-game suspension for, listen, I'm a Gamecock. I don't think he did anything. I mean, he's talking some junk to the Georgia dugout. he gets, and I don't know if you saw the Jack
Oh,
Caglione home run celebration where he just walks in the dugout like a robot to not get dinged by the umpire. But I don't know how much of your Gators you've watched this season, but just overall thoughts on the series this weekend. And it really reminds you of those great series when the Ray Tanner and Kevin O'Sullivan teams would go toe-to-toe, and it just always felt like the SEC East was on the line. And, I mean, this is another example of that.
Aren't baseball umpires the absolute worst? Who the hell came to see
the
them?
ones that make it about them? Yes. The ones that make it, which is a lot of them,
judge, jury, and executioner, man.
Right.
Like, that umpire should never ump a game again. I saw what happened, Chris. I saw the alleged offense. You know, that to me as an umpire is I'm talking to him, because I don't mind that he flexed. I mind that he's yelling at the player, and screaming while doing the flex. And so that to me, I'm having a conversation with him. You don't think that happens in an NBA game?
Right.
Do you get a 4-game suspension for doing that in an NBA game? What a joke. Yeah. MLB had a campaign about this, an ad campaign. It was called Let the Kids Play. Mm-hmm. And it was actually Major League Baseball attacking itself, Chris. And it was great because it was like the new kids have flair. They saw how the Latin countries played in the World Baseball Classic. They were flamboyant. And you know what? Gasp. It was fun. There was smack and it was fun and it was great and it was entertaining. And then you got this curmudgeon, grumpy old man umpire that wants to legislate how the game of baseball should be played. Back in my day. The hell out of here with that, man. The hell out of here. That's a crime. And sadly, Chris, it affects the series. I like the Gamecocks in this series 2-1. And that should serve as proof to you guys, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm always willing to say nice things about the Gamecocks, number one. And number two, that I'm completely, totally, and willing to be objective. Okay? Always. You guys got a great, again, Chris, you make the College Baseball World Series a successful year. You fail to make the College Baseball World Series. It's been a disappointment. Why? Because that's a team that can win a national championship. And the nature of baseball is that anything can and does happen. At the MLB level, the worst teams win 40%, the best teams win 60%, right? Mm. But if you've got a team that's that good, you should be at the party, right? And so I think that's the standard for South Carolina baseball right now.
Omaha or bust, my friend. Omaha or bust. Last thing, I lied, Mike, before I get you out of here. Just I don't know again how much if you've been able to watch a ton of the SEC spring games, or I'm sure you could spend hours talking about what you saw in the Florida spring game, the 10-7 final, I believe it was. But I mean, is there anything coming out of spring games we don't overreact necessarily, but we do have a reaction, man. I mean, it's just in our nature and our blood. Anything as a whole that has stood out to you from SEC spring games that maybe you learned, or something that you think a team's more in trouble than you expected, is better off than you expect? I'm sure your mind's going to go straight to Florida because the Graham Mertz situation and Jack Miller is back up. It's a mess. It's a mess. Just overall take. Yeah. It's disgusting. It's disgusting to look at. I mean, anything stand out from spring games? I know Bama LSU still has to go Saturday. But,
yeah.
Chris,
I think I don't see how Florida has a successful season by its standards. The quarterback play is a mess. Mm-hmm. They lost 23 players to the draft or to the portal. And the concern, Chris, in an era, in a society where we don't have patience for anybody, mm-hmm. Billy Napier is doing a lot of good things. Florida, I think worst case scenario for the Gators is 4-8 this year. Honestly, I think best case scenario is 8-4. 8-4 is not a successful year by Gators fan standards, and that's the very best case scenario. You worry that the fan base is going to put pressure to move on again as head coach, which would be the worst thing they could do. Do I know conclusively that Billy Napier is God as a head coach? No, I don't. But I do know he's doing some good things. I know he's cleaning up some of the cultural issues within the program. And I do think, given the turnover that you have, that he needs 5 years. The roster isn't there this year. I want to be telling people now, this isn't armchair quarterbacking. This is first guessing. Florida's not going to be good this year. That's not Billy Napier's fault. Okay. And it's going to take some time. And I feel like, you know as well as I do, Chris, my mentions are going to be filled if the Gamecocks when the Gamecocks beat Florida this year. My mentions are going to be filled. And it's like, did you hear anything that I said in the offseason? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not a good roster. This is not a good team. This is a team that is trying to build something. And Graham Mertz is designed to be a Band-Aid, and he's a Band-Aid that's falling off, Chris. You know?
Yeah, it was Chris Doring, Mark, your very own, that I heard yesterday was on Saturday on South's podcast, that he literally said patience is what Gator fans need to exude. And I mean, I thought the same thing in the back of my head, like Florida fans don't have patience.
No, not at all.
They don't, which, whatever, is what it is. Mark Ryan of the Fan Upstate, Offsides of Mark Ryan every day, 3 to 7. Mark, I appreciate you taking the time, man. It's always a pleasure. And again, truly, I say I appreciate all of your feedback and your help and everything, and it means a lot because, again, to your point, my guy, I think sometimes we take feedback incorrectly. If somebody's willing to go out of their way to give you feedback, it means they care, which is important and something you should be grateful for. So thank you, my friend.
Congratulations on the hit on WFNZ today. Great job. Continued success for all the good things that you have coming to you, Chris. You've absolutely earned them, man. It's great to hang with you and your audience again. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Invite you to follow us on Twitter at Mark Ryan on Air. That's at MARC Ryan on Air. And we'll see you next week.
Mark, appreciate you, my man. We'll talk soon.
Take care, guys. All right. Love you.
Great stuff from Mark Ryan. What an electric segment from Mark there. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into our first break. On the other side, though, I'll open the phone lines, and we will take your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on a Wednesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, what's up? We're back taking your questions, your comments, your calls as well. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. Again, appreciate Mark Ryan taking the time to chat as we enter the second hour. Guys, something I want to do in this second hour, by the way, as we switch the conversation. And again, whatever you guys want to discuss, you feel free to call in. The phone lines are open. At some point in this second hour, I want to switch the conversation a little bit from football to baseball. Now, normally, I am doing a whole separate podcast giving my grades at the mid-season point for the Yardcocks. I want to do this here on the Daily Crow. I thought to myself, you know what? Why don't we just do it on TDC? I can run through it really, really quickly and then get you guys' thoughts on it. And we can discuss, we can banter. The podcast tomorrow, of course, will be a full breakdown of the series this weekend against Florida and a great conversation with my good friend Brett Cianci of Pick Six Previews. Also, guys, of course, in the podcast tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit about the Jordan Birch thing. We'll talk about the welcome homes and the success Shane Beamer's having in recruiting. Austin, I will definitely ask yours. And to that point, Austin, by the way, number one, I do value Mark Ryan's feedback, and I value really all feedback. I value all feedback for sure. I will say, guys, I'm someone that I'm wired to where I like to get a temperature gauge of the fan base. Like, you know what I mean? I care. I've built my business off of being transparent, and I've built my business off of taking feedback and being coachable, as I like to say, and getting that feedback from my audience, whether it be feedback on things you guys like, don't like, want to see change, want to see more of with the show, the daily live show, the podcast, social media, the merch, whatever. But I also like to gauge your interest on things like the Jordan Birch situation, or get your opinion on other certain things, or how you guys feel like the season's going to go. I also, with that being said, though, you guys know I give plenty of bold takes. I don't think there's anybody out there that would say I give a shortage of bold takes. So I value what Mark is saying, and maybe I do ask you guys too much for your opinion. Do you? What do you think? Do I ask the audience too much what they think? But I will say this in regards to moving the needle. I think, though, asking the audience, gauging, the temperature of the fan base, I think it's great and plays well on social media. I mean, if you don't believe me, literally look back at yesterday, and I'm going to pull this up because I want to, again, echo what these numbers are. 1 hour left in this poll. It has 6,818 votes, guys. 64.5 thousand views on Twitter in regards to impressions. So that type of stuff plays really well. But as you all know, I like to balance it as well. I'm going to ask you all what your record prediction is. I'm going to ask you how you feel about certain topics, but I'm going to give you my take and my thoughts as well. So I don't know. You guys let me know. I'd love to, again, hear your feedback on that. But that's something that's something that, I don't know. I could maybe, again, ask you guys less and just kind of, but I don't ever like to feel like I'm speaking to the audience. I'm speaking with the audience. It's why I say the beauty's in the banter, because if banter's one-sided, there is no beauty in it. It's not a lot of fun, right? It's an open-ended conversation, open-ended banter. As Coleman says, I don't think you get as many viewers on TDC and as many clicks if you didn't ask the audience. I mean, Coleman, that's literally what TDC's built off of, is you guys engaging in questions. And I mean, I remember with Coleman when I first started TDC, that I remember thinking to myself, I already do the podcast. If this is just going to be a 2 hours, just me talking to myself, I won't do it. The entire reason TDC has gone on this long is because of the audience and the engagement and the calls and the questions. That's why it's lasted this long. I mean, really, truly. That's why we've grown to the levels we have. That's why we have, again, gotten to this point. So anyways, I value Mark's feedback, but, I just feel like I'm someone that I will always gauge the temperature of the fan base, gauge the temperature of the audience. I think it's neat to see kind of where people are at, where what you guys are thinking. So anyways, I do value Mark's feedback, though, and I appreciate him taking the time. Again, guys, some people may take feedback as a negative. I take it as a positive. I think it's great to hear different perspectives and different point of views and hear from people that are also in the industry and that have had success and, hear their take on things. And it's kind of like Shane Beamer, right? You're as a coach. He's worked under other coaches. You take things you like, you take things you don't like, and you do things yourself, and you go from there, right? So you can learn something from everyone. You can learn something from everyone. And if you can't learn something from someone, don't be around them. Don't surround yourself with people you can't learn anything from. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Rick Foreman says, he asked this question to Mark about how is Clem Sucks honestly reacting to South Carolina's in-state recruiting dominance of late. I'm sure they don't enjoy it. Rick, I'm sure they don't enjoy it. I'm sure it's something where if they're honest with themselves, they're not enjoying it. Braden Lee, by the way. And Braden Lee, let me pull this up here, his profile. Braden Lee is a 6'1", 163-pound cornerback out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Of course, out of the DMV, 4-star. He just tweeted a little bit ago, I have a special message I want the world to know. I'll be going live at 2 p.m. Eastern on Instagram to tell it. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Could South Carolina go 3 for 3 today and add another 4-star? My goodness. Shane Beamer is crushing it. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. The phone lines are indeed open. We got a text here. You can text that number as well. Let's see. We got a couple of texts. Will Croson, my question is, if we go 7-5 or 6-6, will our fan base turn on Beamer? With our schedule and turnover, would you count it as progress if we were 7-5 and still have faith Beamer's still doing good? I do not think the fan base turn on Beamer. And I think if you know anybody that would turn on Beamer, you should not trust them. You should not be friends with them. South Carolina very well could go 7-5 this year. Guys, when you're getting these big-time recruits, maybe this year's not the year, but 2-3 years from now, that's when you're all going to see it come together. I don't think the fan base would turn on Beamer. I know you've asked that question because we all heard last year. I mean, guys, after that Florida game, it was rough, right? After that Florida game, it was rough, and we heard all kinds of stuff. I mean, some fans did start to question Shane Beamer and get sort of tired of the winning the press conference and this, that, the comments, whatever. But no, I don't see the fan base turning on Beamer. That sounds crazy to me. No, absolutely not. Are you going to have a couple slapdicks here and there? I mean, my man, slapdicks will exist forever and ever, no matter what. But no, the fan base isn't going to turn on Beamer. Even if you go 6-6, I don't think anybody's going to turn on Beamer. You'll just say, hey, you know what? We fell short of expectations, but we're still building for the future. Nobody's going to turn on that. Nobody's going to do that. We got a text here. Do you have any updates on the injuries to LeCroy, Cassis, and possibly Brewer? I think Brewer's fine. Brewer's good. I would expect Cassis will be good to go. LeCroy's the big one. Mark Kingston said he is day-to-day, which what does that mean? I don't think any of us really know, to be honest with you. So Arthur Bears had a dream last night. South Carolina won the SEC championship in football. I don't remember anything about the year it was happening, but it was awesome, and it felt like winning the national championship. I can't wait. Can't wait till that dream turns into a reality. Coleman Hall, honest question, though. What do you think South Carolina's purely offensive point per game, non-defense, and special teams touchdowns is this coming season? Coleman, that's a great question. I don't know if I'm ready to give a firm answer, Coleman, in regards to just, do we pick up somebody in the portal at the running back position, offensive line as well? I think we just offered a guy from Tulsa yesterday. So do we pick somebody else up? That could impact my answer, Coleman. But I would say if you take away special teams and defense, just a spitball number, I'd probably say 23 points per game. 24 maybe points per game. Just pure offense. Special teams is a huge part of what we do, man. You know it is. It's a huge part of what we do. Huge part. So I think you said to me before that 22 points per game was the number last year. We were pure offensive points per game. I think that'll go up slightly. Let's see. We got a question. Michael Lynn says, the shift to baseball. I'm glad Dylan Brewer's at leadoff. I've been calling for that all season. He's one of our most consistent hitters, and him and Wimmer have speed. Yeah, he's done a good job there. He's done a really good job. I like what I've seen from Dylan Brewer, for sure. Let's see. Chase Youngblood, I think a lot of people agree with this. He says, Mark has a knack of being sort of likable, yet unlikable at the same time. Oh, my goodness. I love that. Let's see. Coleman Hall, 6-7 regular season wins with a good offense and actual hard-fought close losses is beyond fine with me. Coleman, I mean, it's a great point. Not every, and we said this going into last year. I mean, last year's a great example. Not every 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, even 9-3 season. Not all those seasons are built equally, right? They're not all built the same. They're not all, 7-5. It can be a wide range of possibilities. So, I mean, guys, look at last year. And I think that's the challenge. I think that's the challenge and why you're probably, not many other people out there that are South Carolina people specifically. I mean, who else really gives predictions? I think there's a couple out there that will. And those predictions will probably be Garnet Glasses overinflated, 10-2, minimum 9-3. And I'm not saying you're crazy if you predict that. Hell, my way too early predictions were 9-3. But I think the challenge for people is this. Because, for example, like I just said, not all 8-4 seasons are built the same. Look at last year. Guys, we were abysmal for 90% of the season. 95%. We were abysmal. The final 2 weeks, we caught fire. We figured it out. But we were terrible for 95% of the way through it. You have to keep that in mind, that that type of play is a possibility. It is. That type of play is a possibility, right? So you have to understand that South Carolina is not going to play the way they played against Tennessee every week. They're probably not even going to play the way they played against Clemson every week, right? I think people forget, again, when they make predictions, they make them solely based off of the best version we saw last year, that South Carolina is going to play their A game every week, and it's just not the case. It's just not the case. Coleman Hall says, having no chance in games like last year, Missouri, Florida, and Georgia is going to be brutal to endure. Getting demolished by A&M like in 21 is no fun either. Honestly, just want to have a chance to win every game rather than feeling like we're bringing a knife to a gunfight. Yeah, Coleman, for sure. Competitiveness. It's one of those things. Would you rather go 7-5 and your 5 losses be by a touchdown or less? Or kind of like last year, go 8-4, but, you get destroyed by Georgia. You get destroyed by Florida. You really never felt like you were in the Missouri game, and Arkansas wasn't even as close as that final score says. You got 3 of your 4. Really, guys, you could say all 4 of your losses last year, they felt uncompetitive. 3 of the 4, no doubt, were uncompetitive, and the Missouri game didn't feel competitive, right? So I don't know. I don't know. Will Korb says Mark likes to sneak diss Carolina a lot. Will, I just feel like Mark sneak disses everybody. He disses everyone. He disses his own team, Florida, right? But listen, Mark errs to the side of takes that will get the crowd going. He does. Bottom line, he's in that business. He is. And damn it, he does a good job because people continue to day after day after day react to it. So, it works for him. I'm not, whatever. I'm just telling you. David Cloninger reporting that Kingston has said Lee Croy's day-to-day. If he can't go, look for Braswell at third, Tippett at second. There are some other options. Petrie can come in as a third baseman, but they'll have to reinvent themselves. Petrie worked out there in the preseason. So, for sure, I think he could play third base and play it well for Carolina. Coleman Hall, all of them were hopeless beatdowns. Let's call it like it is. At no point did I feel like we would win any of those games, and a lot of our wins felt easily losable. Yeah, Georgia obviously was over when it started. Arkansas, again, that game was nowhere near as close as some people may have thought. Arkansas just ran away with it early. Florida, need I say more? Missouri was the one game where you kind of were feeling like, maybe we can make a comeback in the second half. But even that one, you were playing so poorly. You were playing so poorly. Austin Miller, would you rather lose to Clemson in North Carolina or Georgia and Tennessee if we're going to lose 2 games next year? Not predicting 10-2. It's just a hypothetical. Austin Miller, I would much rather lose to Clemson in North Carolina because, Austin, if those are your 2 losses, you won the SEC East. You're going to the SEC Championship. Yeah, I will take. So you're basically asking me, would I rather beat Clemson or go to the SEC Championship? My answer is go to the SEC Championship every single time. Every single time. It's not even a debate. Go to the SEC Championship. I will say, though, guys, and I think I mentioned this yesterday on the football side of things, I really think there's an argument that you could make that the Clemson game is the most important game of the season. The only reason I say that is because you look at last year, and the Tennessee win was great. It was awesome. I mean, it's one of those nights that will forever live in Gamecock lore, certainly. But what really, I think, put the exclamation point on the season and made the 2022 season what it was that victory over Clem Sucks at their place, right? If you went 7-5 and you lost that finale, like I think the Tennessee game's always remembered as a great one, but I don't know that 2022 is really viewed in the positive light that it is. Maybe I'm wrong. But it just feels like that game has the power to completely shift the way you view the season. So, like, even if Carolina went 7-5 this year, if their 7th win was against Clem Sucks, I think a lot of fans would look at it like it would be much easier of a pill to swallow of a 7-5 record if one of the 7 was against the arch rival. You know what I mean? Like, that game holds so much importance for this recruiting, for recruiting, number one, but for this fan base, for this program, for the overall mood, right? I mean, people are just happier. You're just happier when you win that game. And so it's like, if you're not going to Atlanta, you're not winning the SEC championship, like, what's the next best thing? It's not winning 9 games. It's not winning 8 games. It's not winning 7 games. It's not just that. It's doing all of that while beating your arch rival. Like, I think fans would rank it national title, SEC championship, the Palmetto Bowl. Like, literally, right? And that's on their list of goals every year as well. So I really think there is a conversation that could be had that the season finale against Clem Sucks is the most important game of the 2023 season. I don't think that's an outlandish combo to have. What do you think? I don't think I can beat it out of myself, guys. I like asking you guys feedback. I know Mark tells me not to do it as much, but I like to give my take and also hear yours. That's how I like to operate. I get what Mark's saying, but that's how I like to operate. Anyways, guys, hey, let's do this. Give me your grades. I'm going to give you the stats. We'll go into a break. During the break, give me your grades, and I'll give you my grades for the Yardcocks through 14 SEC games. Should have been 15, but 14 SEC games. We've hit the halfway point of the SEC schedule. The Gamecocks, and these are all conference numbers, by the way, not overall conference numbers. And I'll give you more context on the other side. South Carolina's got a 4.43 ERA. They're hitting .268 as a team, 34 home runs. They're fielding .966, have committed 17 errors. Give me your grades for pitching, hitting, fielding, coaching, and the overall grade, 31-6, 10-4 in SEC play. Give me your overall grades for pitching, hitting, fielding, coaching, and overall, and I'll give you mine on the side. Guys, we're rocking and rolling here on a Wednesday, taking more of your questions, comments, calls, and more on the side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking the questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. Again, guys, appreciate each and every single one of you that tune to this show on a daily basis. I know there's so many of you. You know, it's crazy. People ask me all the time about our crowd and the audience. I mean, there's just names I can rattle off the top of my head that you guys that tune in every single day. So again, I cannot say thank you enough. It's truly incredible, this community that we've built, and it's always a blast, man. I just was thinking about it over the break, and I truly love what I do. Like I wake up excited to do what I do. Like I'd leap out of bed, you know what I mean? Like I'm very, very excited and pumped to create content and talk sports and talk Gamecocks and conversate and banter with you all. It's incredible. It's incredible. So thank you all so much again for the continued love and support. D1Baseball.com has dropped their latest Field of 64 projections. They've got South Carolina as the number 5 overall national seed. So a top 8 national seed, which means, guys, the Gamecocks would host through the Super Regionals in their regional. They've got NC State as the 2, Wofford as the 3, and Davidson as the 4. So that's a tough draw. If that's the draw, that's a tough draw for sure, man. No doubt. Anyways, guys, I asked you as we went into the break, your overall grades for the Yardcocks. We're at the halfway point of the SEC season. We got 15 games to go. South Carolina's 31-7 overall, 10-4 in conference play. Okay? And I'm going to get into your feedback as I pull mine up. Let's see. Bruin Nation just said B-. I think he meant for the entire season. Bruin, would you really give this season a B- right now? Where we are right now, you give it a B-. I don't know, my guy. I think I'll get there. Michael Lynn said B+ overall, A+ hitting, B- pitching, and D for defense. The errors have killed us. Michael Lynn actually said C for defense. Okay. So I don't know where Austin Greer is. He was the one that wanted me to wait or ask you guys first. Either way, I'm going to run through mine. Again, give me your grades for pitching, hitting, fielding, coaching, and the overall grade for the Yardcocks at this point. Here go mine. Like I mentioned, South Carolina will start on the pitching side of things. A 4.43 ERA at this point. That is second best in the conference, only behind the Vanderbilt Commodores. I'm going to give the Gamecocks pitching staff an A. They've been really, really good. Yes, there's been some hiccups in the bullpen. We know Cade Austin, some of his appearances, if you will, and just some other times here and there, the issues with Will Sanders in the starting rotation. But guys, all in all, this pitching staff has held it together. They've been really, really good. They have been, they've been the foundation of this ball club. I'm giving the pitching staff an A at a 4.43. And again, these are all SEC numbers, not overall numbers. It's SEC numbers, which are what really matter in the grand scheme of things. Let's move to swinging the stick. Yardcocks hit 268, are hitting 268 at this point. 34 homers. That leads the SEC in regards to the home run category. Batting average, South Carolina is 7th in the conference. Dude, Vandy's hitting 321 in SEC play. Who's right there with Carolina hitting 268? The Florida Gators. Those two teams face off, of course, this weekend. I gave the Yardcocks sticks a B+. I mean, all in all, guys, the hitting has been just a massive improvement. Ethan Petrie's hitting 444 in SEC play. 11 homers in SEC play, right? The hitting's been consistent. Yes, strikeouts here and there have been a problem. Have the bats gone cold for short spurts? Yes, but they've been short spurts. That's the key word. I think the hitting has been fantastic this year to this point. It's got to continue. Probably need some more consistency, limit the strikeouts, take advantage of timely hitting, if you will. But all in all, the hitting's been really good. Let's get to fielding. Again, a 966 fielding percentage, 17 errors in the year. I'm giving the fielding a D for obvious reasons, guys. It's been the eyesore of this team. You see against Vanderbilt, it really cost you in that series. You made some great plays in the field, but it's unfortunately been marred by, some of the blunders you've had. So that's something we all know has to get corrected. I'm giving the fielding a D. The coaching, guys, I'm giving the coaching an A+. I really think the coaching at this point deserves it for what they've done across the board for this ball club. The characteristic of the resiliency and the toughness and the togetherness of this team, you cannot overstate the job that Kingston, Monty Lee, Justin Parker, all those guys have done. I'm giving coaching an A+. And the overall grade, 31-6 overall, 10-4 in SEC play. I'm giving the grade an A. I won't give it an A+ because you're not number one in the SEC right now. I mean, you're right there, literally, but I think an A is fair. I mean, if you'd have told me, guys, we'd have been 10-4 or whatever you want to spend it, 11-4, 10-5. If you'd have told me we'd have been 10-4 in SEC play at this point, I would have, as someone that picked 15-15 overall, I would have taken 10-4 at this point in a freaking heartbeat. South Carolina's in a great position to finish up with, at minimum, I'd say 18 or 19 SEC wins. You very realistically could finish 20-9 in conference play, which would be a massive accomplishment, a great year. You would basically solidify being a top 8 national seed. And so, again, going to be really interesting to see how the Gamecocks fare the final 15 games. But I got an A overall, guys. Will Hall says A for the hitting, A- for the pitching, C for the defense, an A for the coaching, and an A overall. That's very fair. I mean, guys, it's been a great first half. It has. It hasn't been perfect, but it's been perfect for nobody. You know what I mean? So, and you're not going to win every single SEC series you play, but it's been a great first half, man. I mean, it has. I mean, especially, too, guys, when you think about the fact that South Carolina is 10-4 in SEC play, and Will Sanders hasn't been himself, and the fielding hasn't been all that great, and you've been without Noah Hall for weeks. Like, the fact you're still 10-4, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It's kind of crazy. So, anyways, let's see. Guys, it looks like another commitment could be rolling in from Braden Lee. 2024 defensive back, 4-star in the composite, coming out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And I mean, dude, this guy's offer list, you look at his offer list for Braden Lee, who said he's going to announce at 2:00, Alabama, Georgia. I don't even have to go any further. Alabama and Georgia have offered him, right? Maryland, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Auburn, Arkansas. I mean, the list just goes: Michigan State, NC State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, A&M, Vatech, the Wisconsin, West Virginia. The list goes on and on and on. And it sounds like the Gamecocks will be landing his services. Braden Lee, a class of 2024 defensive back. My goodness, just keep the momentum going, man. It's like I said in the beginning. We've never seen this. We've never seen this type of recruiting at South Carolina. It's incredible. Will Hall says, nobody's perfect. LSU, Tennessee, and Vandy all lost last night. Go figure. Yeah, I mean, dude, Vandy got crushed. Indiana State pounded them. So, dude, baseball is just a funny game, man. It's a funny game, and you got to roll with the punches, folks. You got to roll with the punches. So that's why I say there's no such thing as a bad midweek win. There's just no such thing as it, man. As long as you win the midweek, you're fine. You're good. So, anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Wednesday, April the 19th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, guys. I want to say thank you again to Mark Ryan, an electric segment as always from Mark. Guys, of course, podcast will drop tomorrow, episode 777. 777. We'll have a full breakdown of the welcome homes. Brett Cianci of Pick Six Previews also joins me to talk South Carolina football, SEC football, everything in between, and a full series breakdown of the Gamecocks and Gators upcoming this weekend. Going to be a lot of fun. Great series. Guys, of course, we'll be at Carolina Ale House Fort Mill tomorrow night. Carolina Ale House Fort Mill. Things will get going at 6:00. First pitch for Carolina, Florida on ESPNU set for 7:30. We will have the game on. I'll have the Beamer Ball to the Moon Tour shirts for sale. We'll have towels. We'll have koozies. to give away. Guys, going to be a great time. We'll probably do our Q&A about 7 o'clock so we can get it in before the baseball game, but looking forward to it. Going to be a lot of fun, guys. Really do truly appreciate each and every single one of you that have taken time to come out to those tour events, and I expect tomorrow night to be yet another successful event for sure. Luke RJ, let's get back in your question. Said, what's the over-under win total for South Carolina this year? No way Beamer doesn't have a better record than Will Muschamp over 3 years. Beamer will definitely go better than 8-5 this year. There is no doubt. If you're asking me, Luke RJ, what is the win total that I think Vegas is going to throw out there? I would go like if I was making a win total, like my goal is to get even money on both sides, right? I would go with 7.5. I think 7.5 is a number. You're going to have a large influx of folks that think South Carolina's going 8-4. You're going to have a large influx. I think the Gamecocks are going 7-5. I think that's the number. 6.5 to me is too easy, right? I think 6.5 is just too easy. You could put it at 7 for sure, but I think you like the hook. I think you love the hook of the half, make you go one way or the other, right? No pushing here. So I think 7.5, Luke RJ, will be the number. And Shane Beamer's got to go 8-5 or better to have a better record than Will Muschamp through 3 years. I mean, we'd all obviously love to see Beamer hit that. We'd all love to see Beamer have a better record over his first 3 seasons. So, yeah, Coleman Hall says our offensive skill players are just too good to not win 7 games, in my opinion. I mean, dude, yeah, I would agree with you, Coleman. I mean, is there a path to 6-6? There is, but it would take like some very unique circumstances, like injuries. Like if this team plays healthy, games 1 through 12 in the regular season, you're not winning less than 7 games. In my opinion, you're just not. I don't think you are. So. Let's see. Madison says if South Carolina beats Georgia, and Mark is right about South Carolina beating Florida this season, the Gamecocks have a great chance of making it to Atlanta. A must-win over Georgia will start the conversation. I mean, yeah, Madison, if you're going to get to Atlanta, if something crazy were to happen, you got to beat Georgia. You got to beat the best to be the best, bottom line. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm quite ready to have that conversation. I'm not sure that I'm quite ready to have that conversation in regards to, is South kind of really ready to challenge the Georgia Bulldogs? I don't think at this point, I still don't believe you've got the competitive depth up front to really push Georgia. I know our guy Cody Gaskin stand on business in the Big Cock Club Discord. Hell, he's got the Gamecocks beating Georgia right now. So, Anyways, guys, the phone lines are open here on this Wednesday, April the 19th, 2023. A very, very, very busy Wednesday already to this point. 3-star offensive lineman Mike Williams officially commits, and also 4-star defensive back Kelvin Hunter makes his commitment official as well. So great stuff. Beamer and company continue to roll on the recruiting trail. And I mean, again, guys, it's just wild to me. Mike Loxley has to have nightmares of Shane Beamer. He has to. James Kendall says, if you're talking about beating Georgia, you were setting yourself up to be hurt. Oh, that's one way to put it, James. That's one way to put it, indeed. No doubt. Lynn says, I would love to get Champ out of the record conversations. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to separate yourself from that era as much as possible. And I'm not saying that if you were to go 6-6, 7-5 this year, that people will be like, oh my God, it's Will Muschamp all over again. But man, you really would just love to like emphatically say, we are so far beyond that. We're so far removed from that. And this is something completely different. And I think there's a great chance that will happen. Guys, let's jump into one final break. On the side, I want to continue to hear from you. More your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls, final 15 minutes or so. Here on the Daily Crow, taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. Our guy, Luke RJ, in the Big Cock Club Discord says, I'm just banking on Beamer. He'll have a better record than Muschamp somehow. If he only needs 8 to tie, then I can see us getting to 9. So 9-4. Yeah, somebody commented in the, let's see in the chat, Michael Lynn, the scary thing about coaching success is fans. The better we get, the more job offers Beamer will get, not to scare you. Michael, we're not going to let Beamer go anywhere. They're not going to let Beamer go anywhere, my man. I can assure you. I can assure you. John Edward, the way you spell the kid announcing it too, Braden Lee, BRAYDONLEE. Braden Lee. Corey Bridges, if Beamer gets Stewart, I think you're talking about Dylan Stewart, you should get a Beamer ball tattoo, LOL. I'll pass. I will pass. I will pass, my man. Thank you. I have 0 tattoos. I would like to keep it that way. That being said, let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's going on, my man? How are you?
I'm doing good. I got 2 things for you. One, there is no way on God's green earth that South Carolina is going to let go of Beamer. They will do whatever they have to do to make sure Beamer does not leave. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing
honestly,
I could
I don't
possibly see is like maybe he's like 15 to 20 years into his career here. And
Yeah.
for legacy purposes or whatever, he wants to go to Virginia Tech. Like that's the only thing I could see. The only thing. Which, you know what, at that point,
Yeah,
if he's
me
been
too.
here,
Yeah.
if he's been here 20 years, he's won a ton. And so I don't know, man. I think at that point too, though, like South Carolina would probably be the place he wants to retire. So, you know, at the same time, I don't know. I don't, yeah, but that's not something I worry about at all. He's going to be a Gamecock for a very long time.
Yeah, he's going to be here for a while before he goes probably anywhere else. And I could see him wanting to go to Virginia Tech, like you said, solely based off of legacy or whatever of his family and whatnot.
Yeah. At the
So
same
that
time,
really
though,
wouldn't
that
surprise
could
me.
be one of the biggest reasons he wouldn't want to go to Virginia Tech, because maybe he's like, you know what, I don't want to go where my dad's already been. I'm building my own version of what he built at Vatech in Columbia. So, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's almost no point in speculating because it's so far down the road. And no, I think
Yeah.
Beamer's I feel safe saying he's a Gamecock lifer.
Yeah. The only way he's going to leave is if he decides to leave. I don't think the school is going to make him leave.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and that's that. I mean, it's just,
yeah.
Like I said before, I love the fact that we got Beamer. Okay. Love it. And he wants to be like, and I always say this, I know that. And I'm like, he wants to be here. He wanted to come here. And there wasn't a lot of coaches wanting to come here to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And Beamer wants to be here.
Indeed. No, for sure.
I'm behind him 1,000%. You're behind him 1,000%. I mean, what more is there to say, really?
Yeah. Indeed.
The fan base is behind him. I mean,
yeah, there's
let him cook.
Yeah, he's we're gonna be fine. Everybody's Beamer ball to the moon. There, you won't find anybody that disagrees with that for sure.
Yeah, and my 3 grades for the baseball team so far, okay, is this: I give batting a B, fielding a C, and pitching an A.
Okay. I think that's all very fair. You got an overall grade, Robbie, or just those 3?
Overall, as a whole, I give the season a B+.
Okay. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very fair. Well done, Robbie. Well done.
And I'm so ready for September to get here, dude. I watched 2 South Carolina games on YouTube yesterday. I'm so ready for football.
Which 2 were they? I'm curious.
The first one I watched was, of course, from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we went up into Death Valley and showed Death Valley who's boss.
That's a good one.
And then I watched, just for kicks and giggles, the 2009 game against Clemson.
Nice. I like that. Very good. Always fun watching a replay dub against the Tigers.
When we played in 2009, and we basically said, Spiller, you're losing your Heisman hopes today. Because I truly believe that whenever he fumbled that ball on that one run, that wasn't the ball rolling. That was his Heisman rolling away from him saying, no, you're not getting the Heisman. No, it's not going to happen. So
yeah, that was a fun one. That was a memorable game, no doubt.
I watched those 2 football games yesterday. I even watched 2 Rocky movies last night before I went to bed.
Wow.
So
you had a hell of a day, Robbie. It's no, I love it, man. I love it. It's I know you're excited for kickoff, and I know you're excited for this weekend as well. Definitely call back in tomorrow. I want to hear your predictions for the weekend.
Oh yeah, you'll get them tomorrow. Don't worry, you'll get them tomorrow. I'll have them ready to go for you tomorrow.
For sure, Robbie. You're the man. I appreciate you.
No problem, buddy. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Robbie spent a lot of time in front of his screen yesterday. Spent a lot of time. Think about it. You watch 2 full games and 2 full movies. That's literally like you're in front of the screen for like, at minimum, like 8 hours. Like, you know what I mean? So I have to read this comment. This is just too funny. James Kendall says, I want to get checked out at Zaxby's by Robbie Davis. Quote, like I said last week, this chicken sandwich is going to come with bread. And I'm sorry, but that's a fact. My God, that's like one of the funniest comments anybody's ever left. I love it. And I hope Robbie can get a laugh out of that as well. Cade, do you think we'd have the same success this year if we didn't bring Monty Lee back at assistant coach? You know, Cade, I think it would not be giving Monty Lee the credit he deserves if you said, oh yeah, we'd be having the same success. I don't believe, Cade, that's fair. I think we would have been better either way, but no, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we'd be having the same type of season. I do not think that's fair to the obvious job that Monty Lee has done. It's just, yeah. So, anyways. Aaron Hodges says they're giving you shit on the Big Spur. About what, Aaron? About what? About what? The Jordan Birch thing, which is confirmed by someone that works for the Big Spur? That would be kind of interesting. I don't know, man. I don't know. I get shit from all over the place, Aaron. As long as they're talking about me, then we're winning. So, long as they're talking about us, we are winning. Let's see. I've never been a message. Listen, I don't hate on the message boards. I mean, JC Sherbert will come on the show tomorrow, and he's the Doty take. I mean, the Doty take's not even controversial. If I was Luke Doty and playing time was my focus, I would leave. I mean, that's not that hot of a thing. Like, if you're about to get surpassed by Lenoris Sellers on the depth chart, I would be like, okay, I love US. Like, back to that point, I was just solely asked, what would I do? What I would do doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? And I don't have all the context. I'm not in school pursuing a degree. Like, I'm purely speaking from a playing time perspective. That's not the only perspective that Luke Doty's coming from. And I totally respect that, admire that. And guys, I love him being a Gamecock. He's a friend of the show. I don't want him to necessarily leave. I don't. But when I was asked, what would you do if you were Luke Doty, which again, it doesn't matter what I would do, but I'm going to give my opinion when I'm asked. If it was me and I was about to get surpassed by a true freshman on the depth chart at quarterback, I'd either change positions or I'd transfer out because I'd like to play. If I go through all that work on a day in, day out basis, I'd like to play. With that being said, guys, what I mentioned to Mark Ryan, and I'll echo this, it's like in baseball too. In baseball, you have these organizational guys, right? You have these farm guys that are just good for your organization, right? They're not ever going to probably crack the 40-man. They're never going to be in the MLB roster, but they're great for the organization. A lot of them end up being coaches one day, right? End up being scouts. They stay within your organization. That's kind of like what a guy like Luke Doty is. He's a great program guy, and there are great program guys. They may not be All-Americans. They maybe could go somewhere else and play more, but when you talk about your culture and the foundation of your culture, it's guys like Luke Doty that exude that. It's guys like DeCarrion Joyner, guys, because DeCarrion Joyner, he's probably not going to put up all conference numbers this year, even if he plays a lot. Or even if he plays for what for him would be a lot. Like, he's probably not, and that's okay. People want to lose their minds over it. Like, some guys in your program are culture guys. Some guys are just there some guys are GPA guys. I hate to say it. It's true. We all know that, right? Not everybody on the roster is a starter. Everybody on the roster plays a role. And not everybody's role is to be a starter. Not everybody's role is to be a star. Some guys are culture builder type of guys. That's where Luke Doty is. That's what he does. I don't know that he's really ever, at this point, I'm safe. I feel comfortable saying I don't know if he's ever really going to threaten to be the leader of this football program at quarterback, but he is a great culture fit. He is a great culture guy. He reinforces all of those things that Shane Beamer preaches, and that's a great value to have in your program. But I was asked, what would I do? If it was me and it was about playing time, I'd want to feel some of the reward for my hard work I'm putting in. So I'd go somewhere where I could get that. I'd go somewhere where I could play. But again, what I would do doesn't matter. And there's so much context that's missing from that conversation when you just ask, well, what would you do? Well, I'm not Luke Doty. I'm not in his shoes. I'm not in his shoes. So anyways, guys like Doty, I mean, they're great for the culture. They're great for the program. Gamecock fans adore him and love him. And you admire guys that just want to be at the program. It speaks to what Shane Beamer's built. But like I told you guys, there's no glory in sitting the bench. There's just none. There's no glory in sitting the bench whatsoever. And it'll honestly, guys, it'll be kind of sad if next year, if there hasn't been a position change, there hasn't been a transfer, which I don't think that's going to happen. Doty's not going anywhere. There's no point even having the convo because he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere, right? He's not going anywhere. But if and when Lenoris Sellers beats him out on the depth chart, I'd be like, man, that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. You know what I mean? But hey, we could be wrong. Maybe Luke Doty is the guy. Maybe this coaching staff still feels like Luke Doty could be QB1 next year. Maybe we're not behind closed doors. Maybe Luke Doty is the guy next year. Hell, I don't know. We could be just totally off base. I have no idea. Luke RJ says, last thing, Braswell to second and Petrie to third. I think right now, Luke RJ, if LeCroy can't go, you're going to see Braswell to third, Tippett at second. But definitely Petrie can play third. Petrie can definitely play third. He worked out there in the preseason. That's where he really practiced along with outfield, so he can play there. Keith says, any word on Cassis? We have not heard anything official, I don't think. Let me go check out David Cloninger here, see if I know he was at the presser or tuned into the presser or whatever. By the way, Kingston called Jack Caglione the Shohei Ohtani of college baseball. Pumps 98 on the mound, has smacked 22 homers. Let's see. He also said most likely Sanders Mahoney TBA to pitch. LeCroy felt a little bit better than he did last night, but too soon to tell if he could play this weekend. Kingston says we're a little banged up right now, so we're going to have to work through some things. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if Cassis can go. Guys, with that being said, hey, we hit 2 o'clock. And Brandon says, how do you like Trey Knox? Love Trey Knox. Huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Trey Knox. Absolutely. I think he's going to have a big year. Guys, again, we've hit 2 o'clock. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Appreciate each and every single one of you. If you missed anything, you want to go back and listen to it. TDC drops every day in podcast version at 3 o'clock on the Spurs Up Show podcast feed. Check us out there. Also want to thank Mark Ryan for taking the time to tune into the show. And guys, be sure to stay tuned. Podcast drops, the normal pod. I say the normal pod, but you know what I mean when I say the podcast. The podcast drops tomorrow at 5 a.m. A lot of great stuff in there as well. So, guys, hey, appreciate you all. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you stay tuned. Content bleeding out of the eyeballs here until tomorrow. Y'all have a great rest of your Wednesday. We will talk to you all